Okay, it's Sunday afternoon. I am going to complete those playlists. I have a plan to kind of try and plod through them over the next few days. But I wanted to do a really quick video. First of all, an update on the meeting on Wednesday night. It went really well. It was really well attended. It was really nice. Like, one of the nicest things about it was that people got up to speak, and I really liked that. And there was and what we realised is what we would quite like to do is we need to talk, and Women's Place UK are both kind of doing a really great thing, and they're touring and they're providing quite different environments, but environments where women can speak and taking them to different places. But what we also need is stability, and we need roots, and we need a place where people can come once a month, you know, to do this. So we're going to do it as a monthly event. I will keep you updated on that. I know I've been really shit with the social media stuff. Like, I know that people don't know this about me. I'm really rubbish at social media and technology. So I'm going to upload the videos today, and somebody else is probably going to do the social media strategy for correcting the blind spot, because I'm a bit rubbish at it. But that's going ahead. But what I actually wanted to talk about was Jess Bradley today. Now, Jess Bradley, I don't even need to tell you what he's been accused of. But what I wanted to point out is the process that we're going in with Jess Bradley. Let's make this shine. I know, I shouldn't. Right. Basically, the way that our political media have always worked is they reduce people to objects who they elevate and idealise and then devalue. Or just devalue, like benefit claimants or immigrants or whatever. And what they had seen with trans rights activism was a way to avoid them acknowledging that they were not aware of the development of the rule of law, actual equality legislation and safeguarding legislation. Now the thing is, any rights granted in modern equality legislation fit with others. There are no rights in equality legislation that mean that you then are given dominion over other groups, or that your rights to be protected from inequality mean that other people suffering inequality should lose rights. And in fact, we deal with competing vulnerabilities all the time. And what's brand new with this is a safeguarding debate that was requested and then completely shut down with abusive male pattern behaviour, mainly by people who couldn't see outside the limits of their own identity and were being told by media and politics that this is what equality legislation gave you. And so we now have the very strange situation where we've got a tiny little Twitter bubble who are feeding on themselves because they've made it dangerous for women to talk around existing media and politics institutions. And now they're saying quite openly the things that actually, in most functioning adults, we know to hide. So with Jess Bradley was saying quite openly that he saw his identity as womanhood as being a reason to, you know, attack women's rights. He's campaigned steadily. His front line has always been spaces of safety from male violence and predatory behaviour. The Transaction for Health manifesto is one of the most disturbing things I have read, and Maria Miller didn't bother to see any of this when she included all these people in her consultation, because what she saw was a reflection on Twitter, and so she didn't hear what these people are saying. And so it's like with Ros Cavini, you know, I want to end freedom of assembly and I'm going to support violence against women. No, Ros, I think you might want to look at what equality legislation gets you. Equality legislation does not give you the right to abuse women. And while we're on the subject, it doesn't give you the right to sexually harass lesbians, and when a lesbian has to misgender you to assert a sexual boundary, that's because you're being sexually abusive. And what's happened is these prominent kind of activists who are from this world, they have basically conflated trans rights with male pattern abusive behaviour. You've got Amy Challoner. My identity as a woman means that I have a connection that I imagine to 50,000 women, and I spend my time on Twitter stalking and targeting women using turf blocker. You know, and it's really an interesting demonstration of how many institutions are it's really a good demonstration of intersectionality, but what I wanted to explain was the process that's now going to occur. The context that I'm discussing, the safeguarding legislation, the equality frameworks, they always existed. Trans rights, in order to be sustainable, will fit in with them, and hopefully enough trans people will stand up and say, actually, we're not narcissists, we're not male pattern abusers, we're not predators, and we recognise that what these people are saying was not good. But I think that might be too late, and I think what these people might have done is jeopardise trans rights for a generation. But in the meantime, in the short term, the process that we're about to go through is that a lot of people who were reduced to objects were able to openly say quite disturbing things, and they weren't heard because everybody was going brave and stunning. Well, now that we're having the conversation about that context, and that context can't be hidden, and the crisis that this ill-thought-out consultation has generated are becoming apparent, and the blind spots in the understanding of these frameworks at an elite level, what will also happen is the trans activists who were smiled and applauded as they said some quite disturbing things in the media will now be listened to. And as we go through this process, as it becomes apparent what's been done to women, and as the Jess Bradleys open up, it'll be like a magic eye picture. And all of a sudden people will start hearing, because often when you're assessing abusive behaviour, you have to take identity out of it. What does this behaviour look like if this person's identity is not clouding the issue? Well, that's just, some quite disturbing views. That's just a belief that women were no longer about boundaries. The trans identity never meant that women were no longer allowed boundaries. The trans identity never meant any of that. It never meant male pattern abusive behaviour was suddenly not male pattern abusive behaviour. It did not mean that, inclusion and equality legislation just didn't ever get you that. And what's been allowed is this big mad bubble has emerged, and now we're going to go through the process of it popping. And I'm just basically, I think women that have been dragged into the middle of this, and most of us have been dragged into the middle of this, not by choice, to know that the best thing right now is not to have a conversation as people are starting to listen to trans activists and go, oh shit, they actually said that and we applauded them. The best thing that you can do is correct that blind spot and have the conversation about your life, and have the conversation you were having, and have the conversation about these systems that they demanded, because their behaviour is now about to demonstrate why we need them.